Welcome to section 1 of this course, Introduction to the course. In this video, I'll give a brief overview of the course. I'll mention the pedagogical approach that I'll adopt, and I'll also mention some prerequisites that are expected from you. The name of the course is Shell Scripting with Z. We'll cover both the basic and advanced features that are suitable for both the novices and the power users of the Linux system. First, a little bit about myself. I did my PhD and later the postdoc in computer science. My research area revolves around developing algorithms for robotic exploration and mapping. I also worked as a software developer and engineer for 5 years, developing ERP systems for aviation industry. At that time, I also worked as a course instructor on a part-time basis. So I have 6 years experiences teaching in universities, teaching computer science courses. In these recent 4 years, I teach in the university on a full-time basis. I'm teaching CS courses, including Linux and shell scripting. I teach both in person and online. I like to keep learning and researching with an open-minded and positive spirit, and I'm very happy to connect with students over social medias. What we are going to learn in this course, a very higher level view. You are going to learn some fundamental Linux and shell utilities and commands that are critical for every Linux users to know. You're also going to learn advanced Linux and shell utilities that will make you a power user of the Linux system. You will also develop the advanced understanding of the key features of the Linux system. For example, the pipelines, the wildcards, the regular expressions, and you will experience how they can improve your shell scripting skills. You will also learn various skills in writing shell scripts to automate work, making you a productive Linux user, both for your personal life and for your careers. Here's a roadmap of the course. We'll start with the overview of the Linux system. We'll talk about the overview of the Linux system and look at the file systems. We'll look at the absolute path, the relative path, and the securities on files. So this part, I'll just go over that quickly because I assume you have more or less the knowledge of this one. Then we'll talk about the process management. I'd like to talk about 2 topics. One is about the exit code. Every process when they run, they have an exit code. Another is the inter-process communication, the pipes or pipelines. So pipes is considered the key feature in the philosophy of the Unix system. Then we'll also cover some built-in utilities or called commands in Z shell. I'll quickly go over some very basic ones. For example, how to create a directory, remove a directory, how to create a file, how to remove file, etc. So this part, I also assume you more or less know this one. I'll talk a little about these prerequisites in a moment. So then based on this, we'll cover some advanced utilities and commands in Z shell. I would like to cover 2 topics. One is the grep, egrep family, which will use the regular expressions to filter the content of the files. Another is a find utility. So find is a little bit hard to use, but once you master this, it will be very handy. I'll give you an example. Suppose you have thousands of the .bak files, the backup files. You want to delete them to free up space. You can just use find to find all of them. And then you further tell find, for each file you find, just delete them or just move them into some directory. So then find will do all the work for you. All the 1,000 files will be deleted 1 second. This is about this one. And then based on this, we'll also like to talk about the Z shell functionalities and associated meta characters and the Z shell scripting languages. I'll talk about this in the next slides. Z shell and all other shells, they have some functionalities, and for each functionality, there are associated meta characters. For example, they can do redirection using those meta characters. They can do pipelines. They can do file name substitution, also called wildcards or globing. We can also do command substitution and variable substitutions, right? Those 3 are also called expansions in the literature. We'll also look at the others like conditional and unconditional sequencing, the coding system in the shell. Then based on this, put everything together, we'll talk about the shell scripting language. Shell script is basically a text file with all the commands, utilities listed line by line. And when you run them somehow, the shell will just evaluate this line by line, right? For example, in this one, the shell will output hello world on the screen. It will list the current directory where you are there, and then also list the interest in the current directory, right? But the shell script, as simple as this one, is not that exciting and useful, right? Shell script is very popular. It's considered a full-fledged programming language. As a full-fledged programming language, it must contain some other features, right? For example, shell script can read variables and manipulate variables. It can read from users. It can take command line arguments. It can do arithmetic and logical operations. It can do branches, if else, and loops. It can also have functions, recursions, etc. Right? So all those features constitute shell script core features and make it its a full-fledged programming language. We'll look at some of the features in the course. About the pedagogical approach I'll use for this course, we'll use a combination of the slide presentation with annotations. We'll use the whiteboard illustrations when needed. We'll also heavily rely on the Linux and the Z shell live coding environment. We'll do the live demos a lot. We'll also give some exercise and quizzes. So here, let me quickly show you a little bit about this one. This is whiteboard, right? So when needed, I'll just draw things here, right? Another is the coding environment, right? This one is a Z shell, right? So it's a thing we can just run, for example, Z shell, right? So this will run the shell, right? We'll do a lot of live demos here. Lastly, I would like to talk the prior knowledge that will be expected. As I mentioned, assume you know some basic concept of the file system. For example, how the absolute path and the relative path work in the Linux system, and how the security is implemented there. Also, I assume you know some very basic utilities and commands in any shells. For example, how to get the current location, list the entries in the current location, how to create a directory, remove directory, how to see the content of the file, how to use the online editor to do some simple editing, how to rename file, move file, copy file, remove, get some statistic information of the file, how to change the permissions, this part, and how to do sorting, carting, etc. Also assume you have some very basic programming concepts. For example, what are the variables, how the variables are used, and the branches and the loops. Every programming language that have the three kind of flow. One is the sequential, one is the conditional, the branches, and we have the loops, and all those three things together to form a programming language. Those are used in the shell script. This is the first video of the section 1. In the next video, we'll be looking at how to set up and install the Linux and the Z shell system. See you then. Thank you.